centers were opened. Ladies and gentlemen, we are zooming straight into the commencement of the all-important event. And so, as custom of the match, we'll definitely want to start off with an opening prayer. But before that, I want to invite the Master of Ceremony. Master, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Neil Cruz, and I'm going to co-host this program with my colleague who just spoke. So we're all on Mr. Larry Sisu, who is going to give us the opening prayer for this event. Come with a big round of applause.
Please, let's share a word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this moment. We're going to follow the gift of God. We thank you for this great gathering. We know your presence is here with us. We ask for your wisdom, knowledge, understanding, that you see us through this program, that at the end of the day, do not just be an ordinary gathering, but be a gathering that will impact lives and bring the change that is much needed. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larry Sisu, for this powerful prayer.
All right, so now to the agenda and the reason why we are here. And so we are here under the umbrella of the African Reform Movement. And today we are going to have engagements on the first alliance of independent reformers. But before we talk about all what is going to happen, we will first call on Amenwa and her band to give us some small musical interlude as we prepare ourselves to have some series of engagements with our resource persons and our experts within the field, as you also share in whatever we are going to discuss over here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the band as they seek to entertain us.
So, Na Amanwa Dodu, also known as Na Amanwa, is a Ghanaian Ghana folklore music singer and songwriter. She was the lead female singer for Ulobe, the Ghanaian music group that was founded in 1973, when most of us here were not born. Na was a recipient of the 2018 Ghana Music Awards Lifetime Achievement Honors. Shall we welcome Na Amanwa? A big round of
Wow, you can do it better. Do it better for now. My God, backed by the Super International Band. The times we're hearing this song, some of you are saying your mother's name. Beautiful. Alright, so as I was saying earlier, these are a series of engagement that will be going on, but this is the first one. And this is the first alliance of independent reformers. As if you find yourself in this room, you are part of the reform group that is seeking for a constitutional review and a constitutional change. But then we cannot do this all-important event without having a chairperson. And so I'll call on my co-MC to introduce the chairperson for today's event.
So the chairman for today's event. The chairman for today's event holds a Master of Arts degree in audiovisual production, that's film and television, from London Metropolitan University, a diploma in journalism from Ghana Institute of Journalism, a certificate in marketing management from Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, a certificate in production and cost management from the Association of Overseas Technical Scholarship of Japan, a certificate in marketing management from Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, and a certificate in delivering learning to adults from Westminster Adult Education Service, London. He had his second cycle education at Ghana's prestigious second cycle institution, Presbyterian Boys Secondary School, Legon Presec, Accra. He started as a broadcast journalist at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. He has held positions including Director of Public Communication at the Ghana Investment Promotion Council, Director of Programs and Marketing at Sunshine Radio, General Manager of Record Company Megastar Limited, Account Manager for Corporate Healthcare at Gison's Consultancy Services in London. He also was Advertising and Promotions Manager at ABC Brewers Limited. Please, for the mighty round of applause, join me to welcome His Royal Blackness, Kwesi Che Darko.
Yeah, so, he just wants to check up something, but wants to check up on him and he's attending something pretty important, and so he will join us briefly. That is why he's not. But we've heard from him and we know what he's capable of doing. And so as when he joins us, we take his remarks.
So before he joins us, we probably would like to take a musical interlude. Then when he comes, he will give us his response, then we'll carry on the program. So let's welcome once again a super international band with Na Amadora. My colleagues, please, the chairman for the occasion is here. Once again, His Royal Blackness, Kwesi Che Darko.
Our dear Ghanaian family, thought leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be united with you this day to exchange ideas and to find a better way for the governance of our beautiful nation. One nation, one people, one destiny. A creed proclaimed by a leader gone by. Probity and accountability. A creed proclaimed by another leader gone by. Citizens are not spectators. A statement made when another leader is still in office. As we listen to the rhetoric of all the leaders gone by and still here, as we read their words, we see their hearts, we see their vision, we hear their thoughts. But let not these fool any of us, because greater and more evident than all of these is their actions. What are the actions of our own brothers and sisters, grandfathers and grandmothers, uncles and aunties, nephews and nieces, sons and daughters, that we look around us, find them to be common people just like us, and because we believe in their words, elevate them into positions of authority, that they may look after and lead the sheep, not to slaughter, but to greener pastures. Over the years, we have learned, however, that whilst the sheep may fear the wolf, it is still the shepherd that slaughters it. So please let us think and think again, that every time we rise to choose our shepherds, we shall question them a little more than we do when we are confronted with a free t-shirt, a can of sardines, a basket of consumables, or a promise of entertainment. We are a beautiful nation, no doubt, a colorful nation, no doubt, a nation that other nations have loved to visit over the years, no doubt, not only because of the beauty of our culture and our hospitality, but also sometimes because of our stupidity. Because we elevate strangers, foreigners, anybody who is other than us, than our own selves. People go where they will be celebrated, not merely tolerated. And foreigners all around the world have learned that if you want to be celebrated, find the people who do not know how to celebrate themselves. For if you can celebrate yourselves, it will be impossible for a foreigner who opens a business in your country to say a lady has taken something from the kitchen and therefore strip her naked and rub pepper into her eyes and still walk free in your country. It is only a nation of stupidity that controls this. So when we look at ourselves and we look at our children and our parents, and then we look at the people we have elected as our leaders, and then we start asking ourselves, are these the leaders we desire? The answer is, whatever you think of yourself, you will get the leader that will match you. If you are indolent, if you are docile, if you are sheep, you'll be pushed around by wolves. Now, if you're lions, who is going to push you around? Maybe one lion will lead the pride, but it leads the pride in the full knowledge that if it makes a fool of itself, the cubs will soon rise against it. Can we be lions? And if we will be lions, will we be lions with ambitions and revolutions, or will we be lions with ideas and reform? The days of ambition and revolution are long gone because the days of ideas and reform are here. There is no need for us to waste our energies in fighting one another and punching one another. Now we debate one another and we express ideas that are superior to the other. That those citizens, those thinking citizens, not just indolent and docile spectators, will listen to better ideas, support better ideas, and reform our nation for the better. Today I'm happy to be here, not only because I personally like Dr. Nee Amu, an expert in his field of endeavor, who's worked as a doctor, who deals with trauma, who works in the so-called first world, but also because I am always looking for those with ideas. but who are not accepted by those in authority who fear new ideas. Because we live in a duopoly in Ghana, a duopoly called NDC, NPP. And some will say, why do you say NDC first and not NPP first? Because in this dispensation of our politics, NDC came before NPP. Because NDC was born out of a revolution that led to something called PNDC, which then became the NDC. And in which PNDC, a constitution was written essentially to safeguard and hold one person softly and gently till he could go out of power. If you ask me, that constitution has outlived its usefulness. And people in the NPP and the NDC will all tell you the same. But we have come to a point in our intellectualism where our intellectuals are themselves dishonest. So they may say one thing privately and say another publicly. As you're well aware, my expertise is in media, brands, culture, and tourism. But I'm also sick and tired of the grand thievery in positions of authority, the egregious conflict of interest with the very people we have put in positions of authority, that I spoke at a time when many thought my life was at stake. But in speaking, I opened the floodgates for others to speak to. 17th August 2022, and I asked, is this what we want to continue in this country? Do you want a minister of finance who determines that the country is broke? So we must go on the bond market to borrow and borrow greatly. Also have his own company or his own former company be a beneficiary every time we go and borrow. How stupid are we as a country? How cowardly are we as a country? How intellectually bereft are we as a country? How corrupt are we as a country? That 30 million people, at least 10 million of whom are educated and able to speak, remain silent whilst this goes on. This is not the only problem in Ghana. The problem is the people of Ghana. The people of Ghana always say, as for us, we like peace. Sometimes you need a war in order that you may maintain peace for a longer term. Sometimes you need to call your own brothers out in order that the society may enjoy peace. And sometimes you need to call your own parents out in order that other children may enjoy freedom and justice. Today, I'm happy to be chairperson for a platform where somebody who is not afraid to call us out for what we refuse to speak about, and speak about it in the hope that other young minds and old minds too will think again about our motherland Ghana and ask the question, is this our best? Are these our best leaders? Is this our best system? Is this our best constitution? A little over 5 years ago, on 31st October 2017, people came from all over the world to Wittenberg, Germany, to celebrate the 500th anniversary of the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. What is that? A primarily religious revolution that led to radical social, economic, and political reform. It was ignited when a Catholic monk named Martin Luther nailed his 95 theses to the door of his local church. Luther believed the Catholic Church was corrupt, and he sought to reform it. His 95 thesis was basically 95 complaints against the Catholic Church. Because of this, the Protestant Church was formed. Because of this, many broke away from the Catholic Church, and maybe the church you attend today is a result of what Martin Luther started. Don't be afraid of thought leaders who challenge the status quo, for they will change the world. Welcome to the African Reform Movement, and my dear friend and brother, Dr. B.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do it better. Do it better because we're going to get a chairperson for all important events. Please do it better, do it better. My takeaway. He said, although the sheep fears the wolf, and it's the shepherd that slaughters it. And when we get the opportunity to choose our shepherds once more, we must question them a little more than we do. And also the days of ammunition and revolution are long gone than the days of ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our chairperson. I have seen him on TV several times, I've heard him speak, but I've never been touched as today. I am more than ready for action. Thank you, sir. You are blessed to have you. Alright, so we'll take our musical interlude from the Super International Band who are here to entertain us. Please stay, don't stay glued to your seat. You can stand up and dance a little bit if you are ready for the charge ahead. Thank you.
the super international talent, Wifna Amadwa. Our next speaker had his LLB from the University of Ghana from 1987 to 1990. He then proceeded to the Ghana Law School and completed in 1992. He has since been in private practice. He's now a senior private legal practitioner and head of Logan and Associates in Osuakra. Please help me welcome lawyer Maxwell Logan. Please give it up for him.
Good afternoon again. I'm very delighted to be here. I'm a little disappointed, that there are not more of us. And I believe it points to a certain error in our society. The lack of appetite, the desire to embrace that which matters, the obsession with that which does not matter. I will leave that at that. Mr. Chairman, and our very distinguished musical icon. Today is the first time I've had the privilege of being so close to you. I'll take an autograph before I go. And let me observe protocol by saying all protocol observed. My immediate emotions when I received the invitation of the African Reform through its president, Dr. Ni Darko, one of the guest speakers at this event. One of elation, a sense of importance. Me speak on reform of our constitution at the R.S. Amegashi Hall. Big stuff. However, my elation and feelings of importance were to be soon displaced by a sense of foreboding at the enormity and the weight of the subject that is so fundamental to our everyday lives and the organization of our society and our nation. Sound. It's the chairman. It's needless to emphasize. I hold the view that any discussion of Ghana's 1992 constitution, and even more, any discussion aimed at putting forward prescriptions for the alteration of the current state of the 1992 constitution enjoins that care be taken, emphasize its preservation as the bedrock of the legal order of society. This is why I much prefer the word reform, change, as in my view, reform encapsulates the elements of retention and continuity that must have been in this discussion. A Google search of the key phrase 1992 Constitution of Ghana throws up arguably the all-encompassing single descriptive paragraph of our Constitution. The search describes the 1992 Constitution in the following words. The Constitution of Ghana is the supreme law of the Republic of Ghana. It was approved on the 28th of April 1992 through a national referendum after 92% support. It defines the fundamental political principles, establishes the structure, procedures, powers and duties of government, structures of the judiciary and legislature, and spells out the fundamental human rights and duties of citizens. To my mind, our Constitution's greatest validation as the supreme law of the land is in the resounding 92% endorsement by the eligible voters at the time of its promulgation. The almost unanimous public acceptance gives it legitimacy as a social contract of the Ghanaian people. I must sound the caveat that I use the term social contract loosely, not in the same sense as John Locke used it in his political philosophy. With the resounding endorsement of the citizens of this country, the 1992 Constitution was birthed 8th of May 1992 by the assent of the then head of state and gazetted on the 15th of May 1992. Our Constitution, like the Christian God, is very jealous. And it quickly asserts itself in Article 3.3 A and B by prohibiting the use by violence or other unlawful means to suspend, overthrow, abrogate in whole or in part, or attempting to do any such thing, and declare such an act high treason, upon which conviction is punishable by death. The same Constitution, however, in recognition of its need as the first law of the land, will be a living and breathing instrument that is responsive to changing circumstances of society, provides in Article 289 of its amendment. It provides in Article 2891 that the Constitution may be amended directly or indirectly by an act of Parliament passed for the sole purpose of altering or amending the Constitution. Articles 290 and 291 institute two distinct regimes for altering and amending the Constitution. That is the entrenched and the unentrenched provisions of the 1992 Constitution. Both regimes, however, retain the need to go to the citizens in a referendum, emphasizing the sovereignty of the people. I submit with all due respect that the high purpose of the 1992 Constitution declared in its preamble, we the people of Ghana, in the exercise of our natural and inalienable rights, to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality, opportunity, and prosperity. Cast a duty on each and every citizen to constantly examine our socio-political circumstances so as to discharge the civic duty to contribute to a truly functioning society. It is in the aforementioned regard that I would like to applaud the foresight and activism and proactiveness of the African Reform Movement and its leadership in organizing today's events, aptly named the Grand Meeting. Thank you, Dr. Nee Amudaku, and your team of forward-looking and responsible citizens Ghana owes you a debt, which even if not recognized and rewarded in your lifetime, will be mounted in a memorial for posterity. I believe it's a good place. Clap. I am sure when you are confronted with the opposition to the ideas that you encourage society to share, and the objections to debate that have worked to engender society. You and your team know better than I do that visionaries are the most vilified and unappreciated species of the human race, but they remain the fulcrum on which every society turns. So keep at it. Don't relent. Now to the subject of reform. I hold subscription to the very grounded, common sense notion that the thing that is functioning properly and delivering on its purpose needs no change. In fact, the view is globally popularized by the American saying, if it ain't broken, do not fix it. Put another way, the principle underscores the general abhorrence for the clamor for change's sake, or purposeless change. That brings me to a few questions. Is the 1992 Constitution broken? Is the 1992 Constitution delivering on its purpose? Does the 1992 Constitution require reform? Why is there so much clamor for changes to it? Before I attempt providing some answers to these questions, let me say that I'm delighted that I'm the first of the three guest speakers, which affords me the opportunity to lay the foundation for the many positive attributes of the 1992 Constitution. Because I would hate for the view to be taken that our Constitution is all bad. It is not for nothing that the 1992 Constitution is the most enduring Constitution in our history and has held the country together for 3 decades, 30 years. I then venture the opinion as a student of Ghana's constitutional history that the 1992 Constitution is the best this country has had since its independence, though like all human undertaking is not perfect. But probably the most arresting and compelling reason for constitutional reform was handed to me by my 21-year-old daughter, who is a final year student in Exeter University in England this morning. She asked me, as she saw me going through my notes for this speech, what I was doing. I told her that I was going to make a contribution to the discussion on the 1992 Constitution. She said, "Oh, I get it." I asked, "What do you get?" And she retorted that the Constitution, which was promulgated at the time when there was no internet, no Google, no Facebook, no mobile phone, no WhatsApp, and no social media, certainly badly needs reform. Then it struck me that our young citizens under 30 years need badly to take ownership of the social order we created before they are born. The rules we have in place, the principles principles we treasure, the threads by which we design our social cohesion, are they relevant for them? This is not about us, it's about you. And this is why I'm disappointed that so few of you are here. Let me go back to the question. Is the 1992 Constitution delivering on purpose? My view, no. Not to the high standards it creates, nor the expectation it raises. Certainly it is not delivering on what is expected of a document which has had the benefit of 4 previous constitutions. I've heard respected voices in our society say the 1992 Constitution is failing not because of the document, but because of its implementation. I hold no pretensions to having the intellectual capacity to banter with these gray hairs, years of our society. But it cannot be wholly true that the problem of the 1992 Constitution is one dimension. What we cannot contend with is the incontrovertible fact that at no point in our history have we been confronted with such a clamor for changing to our Constitution. It must be noted for the record that the 1992 Constitution has already undergone some amendments, one of the most notable of which has been the repeal of Article 8 by Act 527 of 1996 to allow organizations to hold dual citizenship. The work of the Constitution Review Commission, headed by Professor Aldeviago, we took sample views of the broader Ghanaian society on aspects of the Constitution in need of reform. It's probably the most far-reaching attempt at upgrading our Constitution to meet changing social needs. What is obvious from the absence in public clamor of constitutional reform is the fact that nothing done in the past has addressed public expectation. Here are the few of the issues on which I have heard public clamor for reform. In spite of a well thought out and carefully drafted Chapter 7 on the representation of people, which establishes an independent electoral commission, voting system to provide for some of the best constitutional guarantees of political party formation in Article 44 to 53, and the passage of a comprehensive representation of the people's law based on Article 54, we have had, in the last 30 years, a stolen verdict. That is the MPP's view on our first election, that brought J. General into power, and 2 bitterly contested presidential petitions. Do we need a reform of our electoral system as it's contained in the Constitution? Does such a reform need to start from an amendment of Chapter 7 of the Constitution? The Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter in the most important constitutional dispute, has been criticized, vilified, and abased by some as an assembly of men who are but tools doing the bidding of the executive who appointed them. One cannot emphasize the fact that in any context where the referee wields no moral authority, mayhem will soon ensue. If we are not careful, and our Supreme Court loses all of its moral authority, we will go to war over elections. There has also been the issue of the imposition of ceilings on the number of Supreme Court judges, and this has been very topical. So topical that it has featured in in the vetting of nearly every appointee of the Supreme Court in the last 20 years. The happenstance where the NPP government have had the duty of appointing almost all our senior judges has also been the subject of public discomfort for many. Do we need to reform our constitution in a manner in which our Supreme Court judges are appointed? Do we need a ceiling on the number of judges in the Supreme Court? Do we need a check on how many judges one political tradition will appoint? Does Chapter 11 of our Constitution require the Reformer'S intervention? During a recent colloquium on the 1992 Constitution, David Ofosu-Dottir, the respected Ghanaian legal luminary, opined that the constitutional compensation arrangement for some high administrators are too costly for the state. He was not the first to raise such a concern. Judges retire on their salary, some at the prime age of 60, and are maintained for 30 years by the state, whilst making no active contribution to public life. Senior military officers retire on their salaries, senior officials of the central bank, and many more senior officers create a financial burden on the state, whilst not contributing to productivity. Reform-minded citizens have proffered changes in the retirement age, reasoning that we retire some of our best minds and then carry the burden of looking after them. I understand that in this university, most lecturers go before they are 70 or at 70. I've had the privilege of interacting with my first son's head of department in the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, where he took his first degree. He was 86. And he told me that as an alumni of Oxford University, he was waiting for the chair of a certain department to retire. That chair was 96, so that he would have the honor of serving as a chair in that department in his alma mater before passing. What struck me was that he was a fellow, an examiner, and a visiting professor in Harvard, Yale, Stanford, McGill, and a host of 16 other universities. He told me that one of the most illuminating 10 minutes of his life was a conversation with our own Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Whose picture is actually the biggest portrait in history. Our lives as a nation, the constitutional arrangement, social order, requires examination. I've been worried about the culture of excessive consumerism that has spread into our youth. Our youth know the name, the brand, the make, the cost, every expensive consumer item, from cars to clothing. No, they are still drinking our milk, spreading our margarine on the slices of bread that we buy, sleeping on bed sheets that we are paid for and which are washed in our soap. And when they go to the bathroom to use our toilet rolls, and they cannot call the bar without asking us for money. It's an error. I believe it's a point that we must learn. Why do I say so? That culture is a microcosm of what we see in public lives. Consuming borrowed money. It's a Malay. So when we talk about constitutional reform, our constitution touches every aspect of life. One area where I heard the clamor for change is how we appoint illiterate people, companies that must conduct business based on written regulations and statutes. How we use political patronage to create poverty in our society by creating decision makers who know nothing about the subject they must decide. Is there a need to set standards for who sits on our public boards, our SMEs? Then there is also the next question of whether our executive presidents concentrates too much power in the hands of one. You elect the president for his first duty is to make 4,000 appointees. These are critical matters for debate. I could go on and on with a list of the issues that are agitating the Ghanaian public as I pick them on social media, the news media, the print media. But I will not. I will stop by saying that these issues are a testament to the relevance of today's conversation in this place. But I do not have a shadow of doubt that today's discussions will be lively, and they have been already, stimulating, and will make a great contribution to our constitutional duty of introspection and action as citizens. Above all, it is my fervent hope that beyond flagging the flaws and failings of our current constitutional order, this meeting will come up with concrete and pragmatic solutions and chart a path for an advance in our society's forward march in governance and social cohesion. I count it beyond sheer coincidence that this meeting is taking place in a hall named after Ares Amigashi, one of the icons of Keta, where I come from, and one of Ghana's most visionary and forward-looking men, who was always ahead of his time. It is also not a coincidence that this is happening in this great citadel of learning and thought, Ghana's premier university and the best university on planet Earth. Thank you for your attention.
Another round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lawyer Maxwell. Our next speaker is a strategist and project advisor for businesses looking to develop or improve in the areas of monitoring and evaluation, communication, results-based management, policies and structures. She has spent 16 years consulting for and supporting various projects and various foreign donors, government top officers, CSOs, private, local and international projects across Benin, Nigeria, Liberia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Tunisia, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Ghana, Gabon, etc., as well as worked with top government officers in the United Kingdom in all the above areas. She was the chair of Gender for Results, an African Development Bank hosted platform for African development from 2013 to 2016, where she worked with over 100 women from all over Africa to determine results-based approaches to improving GESI on the continent. She has sustained transformational education, support, and governance, and leadership training since then for many females and communities across Ghana and the West African sub-region. She is heavily invested in the development of communities and disenfranchised communities across Ghana and Africa through data-centered and results-focused strategies and approaches. She also founded and runs a non-profit for supporting youth and female welfare and leadership development called She Aid, under which her community center, Bosren, functions, and she runs an active business strategy and development service provision outfit called Istanbul Consultants. It's time to hear our next speaker for today. A big round of applause for Miss Goldana Adabuadu. Applause for Tia until she gets here.
Thank you so much. Hi. Hi, everyone. I would like to hope that because events are being recorded, somehow it will reach hundreds and thousands of people. So I'm not discouraged. Thank you all for making it, for being here. I'm going to be very brief. I run a community center that tries to provide therapy, support, voice, identity to people, not in beautiful English, but in whatever form they need it. Most of the people who have reached out for support so far have done it remotely, no matter how urgent the need is. So this is yet another way of saying things, people, times, and situations have probably led us to an era where most of our support may need to be digital and ready. It should not discourage us. We're still growing. Mr. Chair, ARM founder, Doc, distinguished members of the high table, wonderful people in the audience, my eyes see you, but it's with my heart that I greet you. Let me start off by saying that I am very capable of taking what I want when it comes to representation and power. So today I speak for the people, the voices, the women, the youth who cannot speak like I can, and who cannot take like I would. And if anything I say resonates, then at least my work is done. And I'm here to speak on the issue of women, girls, and what their role should be in the situation of leadership, governance, democracy. I'm going to share a quote that I love. It says, in Africa there was a mother god before there was a father god. To our ancestors, the black woman was mother sky, mother earth, mother of everything. And she had the power to, through her spiritual essence, move freely throughout the universe. They believed that man could only reach the pinnacle of his spiritual being through woman. true woman. Like our wise African ancestors, man must fight to his death to defend the woman's honor, because that is where his source of power and strength comes from. I will now remind my beloved black sisters that a positive, optimistic, loving woman strengthens and gives life to a man, but an antagonistic, negative, or pessimistic one can destroy him. The same applies to brothers, relationships with sisters. In spite of all this, it's the woman who finally determines what type of treatment she will receive and accept from a man. She is the one who can ultimately inspire him to be a real man, whatever that form should take, because he relates to woman in the role of a father, a brother, a lover, and yet he is also always her son. And this was the way that the ancients lived. So far, Oboshi, made of the Rebecca Nadede Aite, Agnes Ofoiwa Tego Pakubo, Hannah Kujo, Theodosia Salome Oko, Susanna Alhassan, Ama Ataejo, Madame Esther Odu, and all the known and unknown women and girls without whom our country would never have been and will presently not be. I greet you in the living and ancestral spaces. In 1979, Ghana adopted an affirmative action policy. The affirmative aspect about it is that it's supposed to increase women's population in government. The quota was that 40% of women in government should be women. 43 years this year, we have 14% of women in parliament. Across decision-making levels at the top, in government and other arms of government, this is even fewer. In Ghana, approximately 300 girls. If you are sleeping, I'm going to call you. If I see you nodding and sleeping, I'm going to point and say that I want you to push. Okay. Approximately 300 girls are impregnated daily. Daily. That's a safe estimate of those who get counted. And about 10 teenagers per hour, if you break it down. Some of them as young as 10 years old. Women in Africa make up about 70% of the people who carry out informal or petty trading across countries and borders. Whether there's war or not, they travel, they cross borders, they go and purchase things, come and provide and sell. They create and run small and growing businesses that feed you and I. They set up and run food processing and retailing points for local consumption. They work on our farms as mass labor. Most of them are owners of the market spaces that provide everything under the sun. They act as domestic carers across a wide range of our demographics. They do unpaid work as domestic carers for the sick, the old, and the newborns. And they cater for the home, society, for relationships, and for the children. And yet, in parliaments and in decision-making and policy-making spaces, these women form, across the entire continent of Africa, less than 25%. I'm going to share with you some findings that a study revealed when they spoke to women who are in parliament, because the that if you're a woman in parliament or in a high space, a high role or office in government, you are powerful, right? I'm sure most of you want to occupy office in government. And they did a study, of women in parliament across Africa have experienced psychological violence in parliament. 80%. 67% have been subject to sexist behavioral remarks from their own colleagues. 42% have received death threats, rape threats, threats of beating or abduction, sometimes online, not in person. 40% have been sexually harassed, and 23% have actually endured it physically. Most of these come from their own male colleagues. And this is from the people who are women parliamentarians themselves. Can you imagine those who work in the offices, what they will be going through? If the people who are in power are not safe or protected, what happens to you and I at the lower levels? What steps are you taking to ensure it does not happen to you or somebody else under your watch? Ghana is a failed state. Many of you here are traumatized. You are walking victims of a society that has broken you. You do not know who you are. You cannot speak out confidently or clearly. You cannot speak your mind. You dare not stand up for something that you believe is right. You cannot form logic and pursue to the end when someone is trying to confuse you. You are hurting, you feel alone, you want to fit in very bad. And on top of it, the people who are supposed to be teaching you and taking care of you are failing day in, day out, and insisting that they are right. So who looks out for you, if not you yourselves? Ghana is a failed state. A failed state is a government that has become incapable of providing the basic functions and responsibilities, such as military defense, law enforcement, justice, education, economic stability, and so much more. There are many ongoing conflicts around Ghana that are not being reported in the media, because that is the fastest way to incur the displeasure of the government. Each government points fingers at themselves and says they are the more responsible for the damage, but each has contributed in turn to the problems that we are having. And so therefore, everybody keeps saying, why are we accepting the situation as it is right now? We are broken people, broken from a very successful political experiment. I get challenged all the time online by very young people who will not dare to tell me to my face what they type online. Things such as, I have to eat. What do you expect me to do? You're going to eat today and starve tomorrow. How do we stand up to the people who are demanding that we keep quiet and be taken care of? You are going to grow and join many others like you who will go into a governance system that can no more sustain your feeding. You are going to grow into a military service that can no more be used as mercenaries for the political powerful or wealthy. You are going to grow into a police service that can no more be a service provider, but will be a personal property of whoever is in power and can afford to pay the most. You are going to grow into places of chieftaincy, who can no more stand as the last frontier of sovereignty between a dark government and a vulnerable people. You are going to grow into religious spaces who are now accumulating followership to offer to politics favors, to create their own republics and kingdoms to rule over. You are going to go into a civil service that is quietly worse and more dangerous than our politicians, because nobody pays attention to what they do year after year, protected by the Constitution. What are the women to do if the men will not, do not, and maybe cannot do anything at all about this? Why must the woman keep sacrificing her ambitions and herself to save her family, her spouse, her community, her children, her country? And yet, the men are allowed to be as irresponsible as they want and get away with it. Why must honor be lodged in the woman all the time and not also the man? I ask all these because this is what we ask ourselves. This is what the young women ask us whenever we gather to debate and discuss. How do women help to heal and repair the land? What should we do? We are so critical to the men that if women no more existed for one day, more than half of the world's population will be wiped out. Give it a week and the earth will be done. How many of you have to do so much at home to make sure that your brothers, your fathers, your spouses, your husbands are okay? How many of you have to do so much at work to support your bosses and make sure they're functioning okay? Women are critical to the welfare of every single person in society, but society treats them much worse than the men. And the worse you treat women, the worse things get, because you need the women to make things better. In spite of all this, the worse things get, the more women get discriminated against. Which means what? Anybody? What does this mean? Any young woman? You can raise your hand and tell me something. Because I want to know if any of you have a voice to speak up. Or you are being nice, polite young ladies. Anybody? You can wave your hand and shout it. What happens when society is suffering and women are treated worse than the men? Should I ask the men? Any man? Okay. Young lady in the green. Tell me what you think. You can say from where you are.
Yeah, sure. Because I'm out.
Even when your voice shakes, you speak.
Under the authority of the men. So sometimes the then use that as an advantage to at least.
The question is, when you are being treated badly by the men in society because times are tough, they would have treated you better if times were not tough, but times are tough. So they are taking resources away from the women and placing more on the men. What do you think happens to the whole society?
The society is like a farm, and in the farm, the woman supports the husband. Let's take that times are tough for the husband.
Yes.
And he's taking all the resources. So there will be a breakdown in the family. But when the husband cannot provide, the woman comes in. And now that he's taking all the resources away, the difficulties in the family will too much for them to handle. And that the vice versa to the society. So when the men are taking their resources and the women are just stepping in, society is not going to progress.
Excellent. What's your name?
Yeah.
Ophelia. Thank you. Well done. It's very simple. For any society to thrive, women must thrive. It's very simple. Right? And so, as you leave here today, and as I round up, let me just share these things with you. And take them with you, carry them with you, and pursue them because it's your right. If you're a man, you can do the same for all the females, whether you know them or not, because it carries far. What should the role of women in Ghana be that we want to see? A few points to conclude. We are already here. We are present. We're capable. All we need is for you to understand that we think and process and achieve differently. And therefore, we must dialogue to understand what the ideal working relationship and working space must look and feel like. Because women are not the same as men, but we are equals. We are already present and capable of leading in more spaces, not just from the back, but also from the front. We just need you to appreciate that sometimes it takes women more time to observe and build the trust that they need to step into those spaces, because we have seen that abuse that women may go through when they need it. Needing that time and needing that support does not mean that we are not capable. We are capable of feeling and delivering even more support and intelligent contributions at granular levels of homework and society if society stops force-fitting us into certain boxes, spaces, roles, and allows us to fill in our preferred spaces. We need encouragement and partnership to do these things. And you must not confuse these expectations and sentiments as desire for control and censorship. We are raising society. We are raising the people you work with. We are also part of the people you need. The future of the country is in our hands too. We are your mothers, your sisters, your daughters, your wives, your girlfriends, your friends, your colleagues, and our influence in all the spaces around you is unavoidable. We bring the good as well as the bad. And how you tap into our presence and abilities is how the society around you will develop. We are a broken society, and the work we need to do to heal and find our way back is a lot. but we cannot succeed if the effort to heal Ghana and raise Ghana up is done with half of the population being left behind and left out of most of the decision-making spaces. You can't move forward if you are late. Women are here, we're strong, we're capable. And what you do with this knowledge is up to you. But Ghana's rise and success depends on what you do decide to do. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ms. Godana Adakumaru. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana is broken. And the work we need to do is a lot. And we cannot do that just using half of the population. Everyone is involved. By so, I would like to make a special request for all of us to sing the National Youth Anthem. And so if you are here, please be on your feet as we sing the National Youth Anthem. Arise, Ghana Youth, for your country. All right, let's do this together. Arise, Ghana Youth, for your country. The nation demands your devotion. Let us all unite to uphold them and make them great and strong. We are all involved. We are all involved. We are all involved in building a motherland. All right, thank you very much. Please, shall we sit down? So before we take the third speaker, I've asked that, in fact, doctor has asked that you are refreshed a little bit. And so you'll be receiving some sandwich or something while you sit and then you enjoy the third speaker as he speaks. And so if the ushers are here, please let me snappy with this. Please take your pass as quick as you can so we do not waste more time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so to our third speaker. Our third speaker is a lifelong Nkrumahist who believes that Ghana is a hub of Pan-African Renaissance. To achieve this, he is firm in his conviction that Ghana has to reform its governance to deliver development for all. At core of this belief is the principle of accountability. The concentration of power in the hands of one person or group of people without strong countervailing power is a recipe for disaster. Professionally, Kosi is a development planner and a GIS analyst with vast experience in strategic planning, monitoring, and evaluation, and an evolving interest in the built environment. The interaction between land use and human activities and the resultant environment it creates is crucial for human progress. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a round of applause, but even as you have yourselves, please help me welcome Mr. Darko.